Okay, I'm going to make a popular Persian summer dish which is extremely cooling and refreshing called Doogh. It means, I don't really know, but it's like a watery yogurt type of thing. It requires yogurt, water, salt, also herbs, chives, mint, and if you like dill, and cucumbers. And the cucumbers are super important. Do not get the regular cucumbers. Either these Persian cucumbers or dill cucumbers, which are picnic cucumbers, or English cucumbers. You want to get tasty cucumbers, not the regular ones with the big seeds. So we're going to make this, and while I make this, I'm going to explain to you something about Persian culture and why Iran is so upset about the assassination of a guest in their homeland. There's something about Persian culture that's unique. Maybe other cultures have this too. But I know a little bit about Persian culture because I have a Persian father, and I grew up in Germany with my Persian father. I have a lot of Persian relatives who came to visit. He taught me to speak Farsi. In fact, I was born in Germany with a German passport and an Iranian passport. I've never been to Iran, and by the way, my father and grandfather were big proponents of the Shah. They like the modern Tehran. They're from Tehran. My grandfather was a successful businessman. The Shah actually was one of his customers. They did not like all of the current, very religious zealotry kind of stuff. They don't like that. So they're more like modern Persians. But let's get started on this, and I'll try to talk a little bit as I am chopping these vegetables. So, peekaboo. I have to film it this way. I don't have like a chef's kitchen here with cameras everywhere. So the first thing we're going to do is we just really need a whisk for this part. I like Sigget's yogurt, but you can use any kind of yogurt that you like. So we're going to put some yogurt into a bowl, and then we're going to add some water. I like to use filtered water. And you can make it any consistency you want. Now I'm going to whisk this, but I don't want it to be too loud for the camera. So I'm going to do this off camera. Okay, so ab means water, doogh means milk, and khiar means cucumber. Okay, so we have a watery yogurt. I'm going to add a bunch of salt, however much you like. It's not like a hard and fast recipe. When we're done with this, we're going to chill this before we eat it. Okay, now I'm going to set this aside while I chop the vegetables. Now, in a Persian home, what makes it different from a regular home, I think, or American homes, is while Americans enjoy their friends and their guests, there are some cultures in which guests are considered kings or very, very special. So when I was a little girl in Germany, my grandparents or anyone in my dad's family would come to visit. And they didn't just come for a weekend, and they didn't stay in a hotel, but they would stay at our house for like 3 to 6 months at a time. That's right. And you would give your bed, ideally you would give your bed to your guests. You give them the best bed and the best food, and as the person who's the host becomes kind of a servant to the guests, believe it or not. Like my mom had not only 3 children, but she had to cook for them, take them shopping. Like you have to make sure your guests are happy because guests are celebrated. They come for long visits, they're celebrated. And when we went to Persian people's homes for dinner, oh my God, They put out so much food. And another thing that's surprising to me, one time when I was like in 5th grade, we went to this Persian family's house for dinner. It was also another doctor that worked with my dad. And when we got there, I could not smell any food. I couldn't smell any food. I was thinking, I thought we were invited for dinner. And then I found out from the woman, the Persian wife of the home, that a good Persian cook eliminates all of the odors of the food, or the scent of the food, the aroma of the food, so that the guests never smell it. I do not know the purpose of that, but that was a real feat. I think that the aroma of the food stimulates the appetite. I don't know if that's an overall Persian thing, but a guest is treated as like a king. A guest is like a king. When you're a guest in a Persian person's home, you are treated like a king. They welcome you. And they generally want you to be there. They welcome you. You're very welcome. So when Israel set about to assassinate this Hamas negotiator, he was a negotiator. I know someone told me he was a bad guy, but he was a negotiator. But regardless of that, he's not from Iran. This Hamas leader, I don't even know how to say his name, that the Israelis killed a couple weeks ago, was visiting Tehran to celebrate the inauguration of the new president of Iran. He was a guest, staying in the guest house with a lot of other foreign leaders. Okay, so now we're going to add the chives to the yogurt, water yogurt. Now, this Hamas leader lives in Qatar, I believe, and he travels all over the Mideast. They could have killed him in Qatar. They could have killed him anywhere. But they chose, and Israel is not stupid, they chose to assassinate him on Iranian soil while he was the guest of the president. That, you know, the Israelis have assassinated a lot of Iranians over the years. Iranian scientists, diplomatic leaders. I mean, even a month ago, there was a helicopter that went down, which could have been an Israeli job. I don't know. But Iran did nothing about it. But assassinating their guest is huge for the Persians. Huge. It's a huge insult to their culture of hospitality and how they want to treat their guests. It's worse than killing one of their own. In my opinion, I don't know, I haven't asked any Persians, but it is a huge deal to kill a guest, an Iranian, a guest of Iran. That's why they did it. They wanted to do something really. They're trying to start a wider war. By the way, all the people that are like, Israel has a right to defend itself, Israel is provoking things, you know. All Israel has to do is recognize Palestine as a state, which they don't want to. They want to eliminate Palestine. That's the problem. They want to eliminate the Palestinian state, which has been recognized by the United Nations, the International Criminal Court. Like, all the nations recognize Palestine. But Israel is like, no, we're the chosen ones. You are less than. Get out of here. That's the problem. So I do not know why Israel hates Iran so much. Growing up, I never heard anything bad about Jewish people or Israelis or Iraqis. Like, I didn't grow up with any of that. I did not know that Persians are at war with the Israelis. They're not attacking the Israelis. I do not know why Israel is so obsessed with Iran. I do not know. But if we want to have peace in that region, Israel has to recognize Palestine as a state. I mean, I know we all committed genocide in the past. The U.S. committed genocide, killing all the native Hispanic people and Indians that lived here. But the world is no longer okay with genocide. The world is no longer okay with it. That's the problem. Internally, their economy is falling apart. Thousands of businesses have closed. Even the Israeli military does not want to keep doing this. Look, Israel for 10 months has been trying to get rid of Hamas. Hamas is just the resistance of the Palestinians saying, we don't want you to keep controlling us. They can't. They can't. Even the Houthis, which are just these primitive tribes, have been able to overpower the U.S. ships, like the U.S. warships and fleet, and all the boats going through the sea there, cannot fend off the Houthis. The U.S. hasn't, well, the last time the U.S. won a war was World War II. Like, we're told that we have such a great military, but we don't. Iran actually has a much bigger military, stronger military than the U.S., so does Russia. Iran has hypersonic missiles, and the U.S. does not. Russia has very strong anti-missile systems, thanks to George Bush, who withdrew from the anti-ballistic missile treaty with Russia 22 years ago. He retreated from it. And so Russia's like, well, I guess we're going to develop anti-ballistic missile systems if you're not going to be part of this treaty anymore. And now they brought those to Tehran, and they have Russian people manning it. I think nobody wants a wider war in that region because it's going to destroy the global economy. And the reason I made a video the other day, now we're going to cut the mint, that the U.S. should join BRICS is because BRICS is a powerful organization that's on its way up to bring prosperity to the nations in it, to do trade. They're building like pipelines and railroads and ports and doing trade. Whereas the U.S. and NATO is just trying to fight war. It's very destructive. So I'd rather be part of the momentum of the growth and the goodness. Not that those countries are perfect. They're not. None of them are perfect. But I think we're better off investing in our people and in trade than in all of these wars. But Iran is going to have to respond, not only because they killed their guest on their own soil, but also to keep Israel from continuing to kill their people. You will recall that in April, Iran executed a successful strike on Israel where they launched 300 old drones. They gave the whole world a lot of notice, so everyone knew it was coming. First, they went to the UN Security Council to try to get something or a sanction or a punishment against Israel for killing someone in the Iranian embassy in Lebanon. Was it Lebanon or Syria or Iraq? I can't remember. But Israel violated international treaties by killing someone in an embassy. That's like going on Iranian soil. They killed some of the leaders of the Iran government. I can't remember all the names now, but Iran retaliated. They're like, we can't let this stand because we have to send a message to Israel. We don't want to start a war. We don't want to cause damage to Israel, but we want to send a message of deterrence to show what we're capable of doing. And some of these countries, they're not so reactive and angry in their war. They're a lot more measured, and they think things through a little better to see what goal they have in mind. And they often will wait for the right timing. Like when the U.S. shot down an Iranian plane, this was like in the 70s, Iran waited, I think, a couple years and shot down one of the Pan Am flights. They waited a couple years to retaliate. But when the Israelis killed this Iranian official at the embassy, by the way, the U.S. has embassy in Russia too. Russia is not just going around bombing and killing people. Like that's territory of the country that has the embassy. under international law. Israel doesn't care about international law, okay? They're like a mad dog. It's religious zealots and terrorists, frankly, the Zionists. So so Iran took about 300 older drones and bombarded the Iron Dome. These drones had two purposes. One was to tire out the Iron Dome or make it use up all of its power. Now, the U.S. and other countries were shooting down these drones, but a lot of them got through. The purpose of the drones was to find out where the Iron Dome and anti-missile systems are, where the U.S. was, what the capabilities of each country was. So they were intelligence gathering drones, and they also had the purpose of wearing out the Iron Dome. Then they sent some ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles. They sent them timed apart so they all kind of arrived at the same time. With the hypersonic missile targeted at the most defended airfield in the whole world, an airfield in Israel that the U.S. monitors, okay? And they just struck an airfield. Not to destroy anything. They didn't want to destroy anything. They didn't want to kill civilians. They didn't want to kill any Israelis. I think they got an empty building and airfield. But the purpose was, we can do this. We have the capability. We know where your target places are, and we can do this. And they also targeted with their hypersonic missile the airfield and the intelligence office in northern Israel that was responsible for the assassination onto that embassy. Now, the hypersonic missiles are not just going in a straight line. They have the capability, when the warhead comes off, they can guide it. So they're really hard to catch. And the U.S. and Israel do not have the anti-ballistic systems for hypersonic missiles. Okay, that's why the U.S. cannot ever win against Iran and Russia anyway, if they wanted to start a war, but they don't, because I told you, they're focused on the BRICS. But the hypersonic missile, it'll come and it'll go, and then the warhead comes off, and I think there's several, and they can go in different directions and maneuver. So, that was supposed to teach Israel a lesson, like, we can do this, we can do a lot more. It was supposed to be a deterrent. Well, that was in April. But August, a few months later, Israel decided to send some kind of inside job. I don't think it was a bomb inside the hotel. It sounds more like it was like a bomb that was thrown into the room. They decided to do that. So now, what is Iran going to do? They're going to have to do something bigger than what they did in April. But they do not want to start a regional war because they're very focused on the BRICS. There's a BRICS meeting in October. They're doing a lot of alliances, a lot of work together. Any kind of regional war is going to ruin all of the work that these countries have been doing for over 10 years on all of their BRICS. Britain, Russia, India, China, and is it South America, BRICS, and more countries. If you go on Twitter and follow BRICS News, you will see Turkey wants to join. I think Vietnam joined, North Korea joined. Today I read Azerbaijan is joining. Like, so many more countries are jumping on board. They want to be part of BRICS. And that's building, it's creating, it's alliances. Versus NATO and the US and Israel, which is just like trying to kill and destroy. Even Russia, when they're in Ukraine, they are not killing civilians. Sometimes it might happen, but they're just killing the soldiers and the infrastructure used in the war. But some people fight really nasty, like the Israelis. You know, they're killing children, women. They're very nasty about it, these extremists. Not all the Israelis, but the extremists that are doing the war. So Iran is going to have to respond. But we do not know when or how. but likely it's going to be something stronger. So just listening to Douglas McGregor, Larry Johnson, Scott Ritter, it sounds like they're going to do something stronger in collaboration with the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. And these are not bad like the US tries to tell you in their propaganda stuff. These are people that are just fighting like resistance, fighting against all the Israelis trying to eliminate them from the land, because Israel wants to take over more of the land than they were given by the United Nations when Israel was created. They want to take over more of the land. They want to get rid of the people living on those lands. It's like, I do not think that's going to be able to go over very well, because Israel doesn't have a lot of money or resources. They're pretty much dependent on the U.S. Like, they're not powerful enough to fight all these countries. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, but Israel does not want peace. They do not want to recognize Palestine. And so that's the problem. And Hamas is not a group that you can kill. Hamas is an idea. Hamas is anyone. If I lived, any of us could be, it's people fighting for their right to have a life and not be killed on their own land. It's a resistance movement, kind of like MAGA is a resistance movement here. Like, don't try to control us and take away our liberty, kind of a thing, And the more Israel tries to kill the Palestinians, the more people are going to join Hamas. By the way, Israel created Hamas. A lot of people don't know that. Israel created Hamas because they wanted to divide the Palestinian leadership when Abbas and the Palestinian Liberation Organization were still in charge of Palestine. They wanted to divide that, so they created Hamas. Just the same way that we created bin Laden. So, by the way, the U.S. also just did a coup in Bangladesh because they want to have a port there. A lot of coups happening. But anyway, I think that, I was very proud of Iran for how they did the April counter move, because they used their weapons in a way to show deterrence and might without hurting anyone, without killing anyone, just to say we have military capability. But Israel just doesn't want to listen. Do not want to listen. They want to kill all the Palestinians. And that's a big problem. And the whole Congress is bought and paid for by AIPAC. So basically, Congress is a terrorist organization. All of Congress should be registered foreign agents because they're representing Israel. It does not make us any safer or more prosperous to send all these weapons to Ukraine or Israel, and then they're using Ukraine. They're like, we don't care how many Ukrainians die. We're going to send Ukraine all of our old weapons and have them try to weaken Russia. Don't believe what you hear on the news. Russia is winning. It's going to be over pretty soon. And after the Kursk incursion, which was led by NATO invaded Russia in that Kursk incursion. They not only NATO bombed that beach in Crimea about a month ago, but now they also invaded Russia and tried to take over the power plant, which is an act of terrorism, and Russia is pissed. But Ukraine is losing all their best soldiers. The invasion is just about done. And now Putin might try to take over the whole of Ukraine. I don't know, because the Russians are very angry, and Putin is like very moderate. There are people in Russia who want him to take the gloves off, but Ukraine is just, the U.S. and NATO, they don't care. It's like, let's let these Russian men die while we take over, try to weaken Russia. And the Russian economy is doing very well, thank you. They had a positive growth. The ruble is getting stronger. And we just pushed Russia into the hands of China, North Korea, and India. We gained nothing. We are not safer. We're less safe with all this warmongering. So, you don't believe everything I say. You have to question what you read. For example, I was reading on Twitter, all these people were posting that Robert De Niro's account is blocked. They had screenshots, says Robert De Niro blocked. Well, I got curious about that. So I Googled Robert De Niro, and his account is a completely different name. He's not blocked. In fact, yesterday he was celebrating his 82nd birthday or 81st birthday. And that's just people spreading misinformation because they don't do any research. Anyone can make an account called Robert De Niro, you know, and whatever that guy said, he got blocked. But that is not Robert De Niro, and people are spreading misinformation like, oh, he's this really bad radical guy, Twitter had to block him. So it's so important, I think, that we do our own research and not believe everything that we're told. I mean, don't listen to everything I'm saying. I'm just getting my information from the Duran Report, Scott Ritter, Due Dissidents, Douglas McGregor, Larry Johnson. Those are the main ones. Those are where I'm getting my information about what's going on with the war. And then the Duran Report, they also, the two men who have it, they have their own separate channels where they also talk. So I listen to that every day to kind of try to keep up with what's going on with the war effort. So again, you know, making food reminds us food is a way for people to share good times around the dinner table. It's supposed to bring people together. And that's what we as a world have to do, is come together, make peace. There's power in peace. That's where the power comes in, by collaborating, by trading, by celebrating our differences, not through destruction and war. You can make money in destruction and war, but it's not heart-centered. It's just satanic, frankly. I mean, these people are satanic. I will say that I understand why people sell themselves out to this, because deep down, every person is very invested in their own security, their financial security and their livelihood. And, you know, if you're in Washington, you're part of this club. If you don't win the election the following year, you're a nobody. You become, useless. You're a leftover. Nobody wants you. And a lot of people don't know how to survive in Washington without being part of the war movement. And if you are against it, they won't elect you, and they try to smear you. Look at what happened to Tulsi Gabbard. She spoke a truth about Kamala Harris, and the next day she's on the Quiet Skies program, where they're following her and checking her emails and putting marshals on every plane where she flies. Look at what happened to Trump and the assassination attempt. Look at what happened to Scott Ritter. They raided his home. He's a journalist. He writes articles for 2 Russian newspapers, but he also does work here. He's a military intelligence analyst, retired. He's written 9 books, and they don't like what he's saying, so they want to quiet him. That's what happens. That's why a lot of people don't want to speak up. And at some point, my YouTube channel could get shut down because I'm not for Israel killing people. I'm not for the US killing people. And I might lose my channel. And that's just a risk I'm willing to take, but I'm afraid of that too. You know, that's how they silence us. Okay, so now let's see how the Doogh looks. So now you can put some ice cubes in it, but you would ideally not refrigerate it. It's pretty thick. I probably should add more cucumbers and a little more yogurt. It's got a lot of chives for this. Let's try it, see what it tastes like. Too many chives. I'm going to add more yogurt, more cucumbers, more water, and then I will post the result. I'm done talking about wars for now too. Okay, so I added a lot more of everything because it was just overrun with chives. I did not. Okay, so now we have a big bowl of Doogh. Let's have a taste. Very good. I'm going to refrigerate this, and when it's cold, I'm going to enjoy it. It's often eaten with some pita bread or lavash bread dipped into it. And that way it makes a nice snack or a nice lunch or just a nice side dish. It's very refreshing, this yogurt soup. Thanks for watching my video, you guys.